Hey everybody, welcome to etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the eTrailer J-Style Kayak Carrier here on our 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness. So if you guys are looking for a way of getting your kayaks wherever your destination might be taking you, well, this is going to be a great little option for you. Why I like it, it is a very decent carrier, going to get you a lot of those features you might start seeing in some of your more premium carriers, and I'm a really big fan of the strap kit that comes with this guy. Honestly, we try to pump it to a lot of the other kayak carriers out there because you're getting a lot of just decent fabric here. I love the protection we get on our cam buckles, things like this little felt protection on them, protecting your kayak and the roof of your vehicle, which is great. But honestly, the anchors that make this a lot easier to get in the hood and the back hatch of your vehicle really make it awesome for itself. So it does a very decent job of holding on your kayak. As you can see, you can tilt it down and out of the way for when it's not in use. I think the biggest issue you're going to have with this guy, no innate security measures. And if that's not that big of a deal for you guys, well, I think you guys are really going to like this carrier. It is going to have 150 pounds of weight capacity available for itself. So I think a lot of us out there probably going to have a hard time exceeding that limit, especially just for your single kayaks out there. One other thing that might kind of sway you towards a different J-Style kayak carrier though is going to be the ability to carry two kayaks with one carrier. You have to look at something like the Yakima J-Lo to actually make that happen. But if we want to bring ourselves kind of towards the front of our vehicle, we can see we have a ton of room here even on the other side. So this still leaves you a ton of room for a variety of other accessories. We could get another J-Style kayak here on the other side, maybe put something like the Yakima Skinny Warrior in the middle. So really love that we have the ability of getting a lot of room on the bars of our vehicle. To that end, we are working on 59-inch crossbars here. So yours might be a little bit smaller at home. Why I like these longer bars, make it a little easier to get your kayak here on the side of your vehicle. So if you're still kind of looking at bars, that might be a little tidbit of information I might kind of mule over. But I really do like this carrier. Very decent way of just getting your kayak on your vehicle, and that way we can start having some fun. It is going to be made of aluminum, making it really lightweight, easy to actually get installed on here, and going to be resistant to a lot of corrosion that we're going to be experiencing in those marine type environments. So I really do like to see that. We can see how our straps are actually holding us on here. We have our two middle straps that do a great job of keeping our kayak pinned into our J-Style kayak carrier. And we do have some bow and stern straps, which makes it really safe and effective for us to transport our kayak. Always recommend utilizing those. That way, no winds of gusts start taking your kayak, start working off those middle straps. We're going to stay nice and safe on the roads. Well, let's go ahead and actually see how we have this on our vehicle. So I wanted to show you how our bow and our stern straps are actually attached. All we simply need to do is actually put this little anchor inside our hood or our hatch. Now, these guys are commonly referred to as dog bones. These anchors create a temporary mounting point for yourself. Just place it in there, lower down your hood, collapse it, and then we just simply need to tighten up our strap here. So that's a really easy way of giving us that mounting point for ourselves. Really easy to utilize in the hatch. Now I will say on the Subaru Outback Wilderness, our hatch is a little bit bigger. So it might take you a little tries of actually getting that hatch to close, especially if you have the power assist one. Sometimes when they interact with a little bit of things in the way, they freak out. All we really have to do, be nice and patient. And once you actually found a good spot for that anchor to sit, a lot of times, it's really easy to walk right back up, place it right there, pull a taunt, drop that door, and it works great. So I love how quick and easy it is to actually get these bow and stern straps ran in to secure it. I know a lot of people like to skip this step, but it's going to be really important to make sure we get safely to wherever our destination might be taking us. So we do have our bow and our stern strap removed. I wanted to show that when you have that stern strap out of the way, you are able to get that hatch open, which is great. Now you could just loosen it up here and keep your anchor attached, which is nice too. But I do like seeing that I have access to all the things I might have here in the back, and then I can start dismounting my kayak, which is great. But let's actually take a look here at our main straps that are holding onto our kayak. So we've already gone over the fabric of these guys is pretty decent for ourselves, going to be holding up to the weather and the elements and the years, which is great. One thing I really like too, you're gonna have this little nylon cord here, just because it becomes a great way of tying up all that extra strap that we have. Instead of having to pin it in itself, stick it somewhere in the kayak, it can stay right here, and then we don't have it flapping in the wind, which is great. But I do want to take note of how we actually have this ran as well. So we have our extra strap here. It is one strap. One end is going to be our cam buckle. And again, we have that felt covering on there. Love that that's protecting our kayak from our straps. But secondly, you know, mistakes happen. Sometimes as you're undoing this, that cam buckle might want to fall. Can be a pretty decent protection layer for the roof and the glass of the top of our vehicle to prevent any kind of sustained damage, which is really great. But let's take a look and see how it's actually ran. So I have my one end here. I'm going to loosen it up by pressing in on that lever. That's going to separate my strap here. And then I have it ran back on the underside of my bar, going across the towers or behind the towers. And why I like doing that, gives you a great tether point for this strap to really start biting in and securing your kayak. And of course, we have both of the straps running across it because we want to push our kayak into our carrier. We don't want any kind of external force pushing it away from it. So that becomes a great way of keeping it in line. And then we just have that ran over the back of our J-Style Carrier. And that just gives us a great little mounting point to start running this in place. Well, now that our straps are all taken off, it's time to get our kayak off of our vehicle as well, and hopefully give you guys a few little tips and tricks and making it a little easier to get your kayak on and off your Subaru here. So with how this carrier sits, if you guys want to come in close here, we can see we just have a little bit of a well of space here in our carrier. Now I like to utilize that when I'm dismounting it, especially if you are just a little bit on the shorter side. I'm about 6'1", so a little easier for me to get up here onto our kayak. What I like to do, push the bottom here of your kayak, or the side, I should say, into that well of space. That's going to make this kayak want to rotate. You can utilize the side here, especially if you're a little shorter, and get underneath it. Now, most of the weight of kayak is still on the carrier. I've simply spun it to make it a little easier to hold on to it. Now, you don't want to support either side of the cockpit here. Simply lift up and walk it away. When you are mounting your kayak, all you have to do, get it up above these little guys right there, and then walk it in and walk it up. So really do like how that works. Again, it is a little helpful just to be a little taller. I know that's not always an option. Step stools are always a nice little option for you to get a little assist, but just like that, we can walk it off, start getting to kayaking. Well, now that we have our kayak removed, I wanted to take a closer look at our carrier itself. So underneath, we are going to have that aluminum construction, again, making it resistant to corrosion, really lightweight, easy to take on and off our vehicle. On either points here, we are having foam blockers protecting our kayak and our carrier from each other, which is great. On the bottom side here, you have a little bit of rubber protection as well, which is great. So I do love that our kayak is getting all the necessary protection. Make sure we're not, you know, damaging any of the hull or the paint that might be on there. And then the big advantage, of course, of these J-Style Kayak Carriers is the ability, or the adjustable ones, I mean, is to adjust and get out of the way. You can see how easy that is to open up those teeth, and now I can bring this in as I need to. Now I will say here today on the Subaru, these raised rails can run into a little bit of issue if you bring that forward, so I would just bring it back, and that way you can tilt it down, which is excellent. So let's see it in its highest position. Now, most of the time, people are gonna be transporting this in the J-style position, so it's not gonna be this height anyways, but I love to give it just so you're aware of how much height you're gonna be adding. From our crossbar here today, we are gonna be adding 17 3/4 of an inch to the very top there. And we can reduce that height as well. Popping those guys one more time, dropping this down into its fixed position and bringing in those teeth as well. Now, I will say sometimes you just kind of have to work it. And I do find that these guys will like to walk themselves out over time. 10mm wrench or socket set, really easy to tighten that up. And that way those teeth are staying nice and in line for ourselves. And that's really gonna reduce a lot of the length that we're gonna be having on here, or the height, I should say, to our vehicle. That's putting me right at 5 1/8 of an inch to the very top. Not that much room being added to the top of our Subaru here, which is great. Now that kind of brings me to the one caveat with this guy. We kind of mentioned it earlier. There's no innate security measures. There's no way of actually locking this. And if anybody wants to, they just have to walk right up to our clamping, or our clamps right here, and actually walk off with it. So let's take a look at our installation and talk about that security a little bit. Right here, we just have a flange mount. All we got to do, back off these knobs. That's going to allow this to drop down, swing one end out of the way, and walk it right off. Now, again, that kind of brings that to the security measure, right? Somebody could do that exact same maneuver, and then they just walk off with their J-Style Carrier. If that's an issue for you, what's nice is it's lightweight, really easy to utilize that install. Take it right out, store it inside your vehicle, and throw it right back up on top when you need it. And I know that's not the most convenient option. So if you want something that can actually, stay attached to your carrier and your roof rack when you leave it unattended, I would look at something like the Yakima J-Lo. That J-Style Kayak Carrier can actually have the ability of adding locking cores, and therefore it'll stay locked to your crossbar, which is great. But again, not going to be the end of the world to have to take this on and off every time, although I know it is very inconvenient. Overall, the eTrailer J-Style Kayak Carrier is an excellent option. That strap kit that just comes with it is excellent. Again, we always try to push people towards it, even on the other J-Style, just because it does add a lot of convenience to your life, which is great. And again, I think that's the only failing that this guy has. There's no security measures. If you're worried about it, it's going to take a little bit more work. And if that's something you're worried about, I would probably shy away from this guy. Otherwise, I think it's a great option. You're getting your kayak on your car, it doesn't break the bank, and you're getting a great little strap kit with it too, which is great. Otherwise though, I think that about does it for our look here today at the eTrailer J-Style Kayak Carrier with straps here on our 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.